recording. Okay. So I guess we all know why we're here.
Are we here?
Good question.
Who's here?
Yeah. There's no one here, and there's no here, and there's no we. But there is a Zoom meeting apparently, and a lot of smiling people with dogs. So, I don't know. Does anybody have anything to kick us off? I could talk, but you know.
No,
As I was saying, when we first came on, you know, Ariana, I was listening to today, said there's no wholeness,
Right.
you know, so that was a big kicker for me, because I've been, okay, everything's wholeness. No, it's not.
Yeah. So does anybody want to pick that up and play with it a little bit? No
Yeah.
wholeness.
Yeah, wholeness is it's a great pointer. It's like
Right.
the Tao. It's like beingness. They're really, really great pointers, and they do give, at least for me, they give me the experiential feeling, a good feeling of expansiveness and all that. But I think what she's probably just saying is that Michael says this all the time, and since we're recording this, hello, Michael, we all wish you well, buddy.
Yay.
But yeah, I think that, you know, Michael says, you know, there's a lot of different terms you could use, but they're pointers. And I think that's the bottom line, is to not get caught up with the concept, but to see the concept as a great pointer.
Yeah. And that's true really with everything that we say, you know. I mean, every word almost really, you know, we could say, well, but there's no but there's no but there's no, because language is dualistic. And so once we say a word, you know, like beingness or wholeness or fullness or everything, whatever it is, then the mind is going to grab onto that and make it a concept. And that's, so we, you know, then we take the next step and say, well, no, but there's no wholeness. You know, we spend a lot of time doing that. So, because, yeah, we have to find words to talk about everything. You know, how can you do that? Well, there isn't even everything, because everything, you know, the ears hear it as, oh, I know what that is. It's everything is a thing, but there are no things. That's the tricky business that we're dealing with. So, hey, Peter, you're 2 minutes too late. I did your job already, but that's okay.
I was breaking out in a sweat when I thought about it.
I didn't do it as well as you would have, but we got it done.
You'll learn over time,
Yeah,
which doesn't exist.
exactly.
But I thought it was a little better this time, Dan, than last time. So you're definitely improving.
Thank you. I need all the encouragement I can get.
It was actually perfect, Dan.
Oh, that's too much. So perfect, there's another one of those words. You know, we can say it's all perfect, right? And what does that mean? It means you can't find a problem with it. You can't find anything that it's missing or that it needs or that it is wrong. But then again, there is no perfect. It's not, you know, there's no perfect, there's no nothing, there's no anything. Well, nothing, there's another one, because we're always saying it's all nothing, right? But it's not nothing. Not nothing as a thing, as a thing that we can know. And the mind, the me, the person is always knowing. It's always trying, it takes up everything to know it. It's knowing everything. It's like a knowing animal or knowing machine, you know? So that's why we're always pointing out these things.
I have a quote that may fit in here, if I may.
I hope.
It's very short. Our primary cause of suffering is that we think deep inside we're going to win the argument with what is.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. That is so beautiful. That's the me.
Mhm.
There's only what is, and then the me shows up arguing with the argument. No,
Mhm.
there's just something a little bit wrong, and I'm here to fix it, and I'm going to find it, and then everything will be okay. Then it'll be right. But the me is automatically arguing and saying no to whatever is.
And
And
winning and losing is separatism.
yeah. So the me has already made everything into winning and losing,
Mhm.
and right and wrong, and good and bad, and okay and not okay, and it's already, I mean, there only is what is. Okay, that's the problem for the me, is that there only is what is,
Mhm.
and it's not ever going to be fixed or good or bad or whatever. But the me is playing its own game.
Everybody remember that Peggy Lee song? Is this all there is?
Right. Oh God.
Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to
No.
hear that quote again. I need to hear that quote again. It was
Oh,
pretty powerful.
absolutely, absolutely. Just, you guys carry on. It takes me 30 seconds. I got it. Our primary cause of suffering is that we think deep inside we're going to win the argument with what is.
Okay, thank you.
And we are recording, so this will all be
That's right.
documented for the ages. Again, that you can't say that too much, because that is exactly what the me, the person is arguing with what is. And that's why there's no happiness there. There's no anything, it's not there's no freedom there. And there's no reality, because the only reality, if we want to use that word, that's another one of those words there. Ariana could say there's no, if she was here, she'd say there's no reality. But what is I forgot what were we saying?
What is.
Yeah.
Reality.
Um,
We were talking about, you were talking about the reality.
yeah. Anyway, but it's that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go check last week's video so I can remember what I'm saying.
This reminds me of something I haven't thought about in a long time, but there's like many like Zen stories about how a Zen master asks a question and is trying to get a response. And finally the monk that wins, so to speak, is the one that, instead of responding to the question, they turn the light on, or they whatever, or they just, the master asks a question and then they stand up and sit down. It's their way of just going into some kind of action, and instead of trying to use words or figure something out. So it's interesting. I haven't thought about this in a long time until tonight by bringing this up. It's that idea of, it's just a happening. Everything's just, if you show it through happening as opposed to trying to figure something out. That's sort of a cool Zen angle as well.
Yeah, they're great at that. That's what all the koans are about too, giving a question that you can't answer with the mind and not conceptual.
Yeah.
Because this stuff is not conceptual. What is not a concept. It's not in the mind. The me is turning everything into a concept and mediating everything. So we don't see what's here.
I don't know why this just occurred to me, but we were talking about words and how we have to use them. That's where we started a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
And Michael once said I think it was in a satsang, I believe, he said, if I was sitting across from Eckhart Tolle, I would say, hey, Eckhart, pass me the salt. Like, we have to use words as human beings, but that doesn't mean that just because we use the word doesn't mean we don't understand, we're not living in the space of this.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would ask them not to pass it now.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, people get into really crazy stuff, you know, with trying not to use certain words and not to, I mean, it's absurd. But
And
yeah,
on
as long
some
as we
level,
get it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say, and on some level, we can't help but live in this because this is all there is, no matter what it is,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the whole joke of it all.
no matter what words or no words, or it's all included.
Right. So in a place like this, in a video, I mean, in a Zoom meeting, you know, we kind of try to use words to try to just point to that, you know, and celebrate it too, you know, point it out and also just kind of swim in it. And partly because there's so much else going on in all the other Zoom meetings and video, you know, in the world, where a lot of crazy stuff is taken seriously, like the me is taken seriously, and time and stories of all kinds. So we still have the stories. The stories will never go away, and they're great. And the words and everything, the concepts, it's all here, but we can see what they are and see the joke that's here. Oh, look who's here. The big man. Moment of silence. Oh, we had a pretty good showing. I didn't know if anybody was going to show up.
Of course, we'll show up.
We were already here.
Hey, Nkosi, welcome.
Hi, Nkosi.
Hi,
Hey,
Nkosi.
Nkosi.
Hello, Alice. Hello, everyone.
We were just talking about
Hello,
this.
Wonderful.
Alice, we saw each other at Kenneth's meeting today. Your mic is off. Got to unmute.
Oh, my mic is on.
I'd
No,
like to
Alice,
comment.
Alice, you're
yeah.
good, Nkosi.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Alice was. So I was just was thinking of the question that you asked him, and I just wondered if you felt like, if you remember, and if you felt, if it was still percolating inside you, and you felt like bringing it out, because now we have Nkosi here. But I mean,
Well, look,
that was a long time ago.
I'm having a problem with my teeth, so it's hard for me to talk tonight.
Oh, okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, that's great. I enjoyed the meeting though, very much. And yes, whenever I ask a question, of course, of Nkosi or anyone, it seems to open up avenues. So it was,
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was good, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was. So I was just,
it was about resonance.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And about how do you, like what are you supposed to get from this message? Something like that? Like what, and he said like, well, there's really nothing to get. You can't really get anything.
I don't know if I quite put it that way, but
Yeah, certainly.
but anyway, it was helpful. I'm surprised more people don't talk at his
Yeah.
sessions, and sometimes I find myself a little bit uncomfortable with all the silence.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, a lot of these meetings do have a lot of silence. Frank McCaughey, his meetings have a lot of silence. And maybe that's part of it all. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
When I first attended this meeting for the first time, I dropped into a silent period and it was totally refreshing. I thought, man, that's amazing. These people are just sitting here. It was overwhelming
yeah.
in a good way.
Well, there's a lot of power in that, and it's something that, again, it's not really part of our normal life. You know, normal life is very much about keeping the silence away and filling the space all the time. So in a way, the silence is pointing out this all the time, but we don't pay any attention to it normally.
And also, I was just reflecting what the silence here brings out. It's the idea of nothing needs to happen. Nothing needs to be done. It's enough. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah. It's already being done in the silence. It's all there or here.
Right.
Nowhere. Well,
Yeah,
Alan
it's
knows.
a-
that. Silent.
Mm. Yeah, it's an undisturbed silence.
Mm,
So it's always there in the midst of what seems to be talking happening. Arguments, questions arising, that undisturbed silence is always there. It doesn't go away. It's just here, you know. It doesn't need anyone to be quiet for that undisturbed silence to be there. It's just there in the midst of talking, conversations. Yeah, it's just this.
you can't escape from the
Yes,
silence.
inescapable. Because there's no one to escape in the first place. It's just what seems to be happening. And this right here, what seems to be happening right now is not happening to anyone. It's just what seems to be happening. And it's beautiful just the way it is. As you said, then that there are no conditions in this. So this just
Yeah.
there are no should and shouldn'ts.
And the person is the one who comes in with all the conditions and thinks
Yeah.
that they're conditioned, but the silence doesn't care about his ideas about conditions. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. It just doesn't mind. It doesn't mind at all. And there are no stories here. There are no stories
Mhm.
and there are no individuals. It's just this.
Yeah.
And this doesn't have any intention to do anything. And there are no expectations here. You know? This is not saying anything. It's not doing anything. It's not going anywhere. There is no movement here. It's just this. So there's nothing to gain. And no one can ever be misled here. Because there isn't anyone in the first place. There's just this.
Nkosi, can you talk about unconditional love? Because I really like to hear speakers talk about it.
Okay, before you say anything, Nkosi, I'm just going to announce that I'm getting a notice that the meeting will end in 10 minutes because I don't have the pro account.
Oh,
So we get 40 minutes. So if this does, it probably will just end. But if we can just sign on again,
mhm.
and then we'll continue. Okay, sorry. So Nkosi, yes, about unconditional love.
Yeah, this is unconditional love. What is unconditional love, because there are no conditions here. Everything, what seems to be everything, is allowed to express as it is. Every expression, every question arising, thoughts, opinions, everything is accepted as it is. As I said earlier on, that there are no should and shouldn'ts. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. Oh, no. There's no such thing here. No. So it's unconditional love because there are no conditions. Every expression is just this. Anger may seem to arise. Love may seem to arise. You know, anything may arise here, but it doesn't belong to anyone. That anger or frustration, confusion, it doesn't belong to anyone. It's just what seems to be expressed in this. So this is unconditional love.
Thank you, Nkosi.
And
Yeah.
in a way, we don't even have to say unconditional love, because unconditional says it all. That is love. No conditions, not saying no to anything, not pushing anything, just everything just as it is. And that is love. People call it love, but you know, you could call it really anything, but love is a good word because that just means it's including everything, just as it is. And not saying no to anything. And that's kind of not what the me is doing. Like we were saying before, the person is really always kind of saying, is putting a condition, saying, yeah, but what about this and what about that? And questioning everything and saying no to a lot. So.
Can you elaborate a little on that, not saying no to everything, anything?
Yeah, well, the person really can't accept everything. Everything is what is. The this is everything. But the person has its own demands, you know, its own rules and its own story. That's what we talk about when we say a story. The story comes first, my story. And then whatever happens, it gets judged against my story. So I have to say no to things because I don't, you know, they conflict with my story. They conflict with where I'm going and what I want to do and what is good for me and which is all a story. You know, none of that is here. What's here isn't any story. There's nothing. It's just full of everything, right? There's no reason to say no. There's no one to say no. There's nothing to say no to. It's just all this. Yeah, but the me, the person, has divided everything up. And so it can't accept just everything because it's keeping its own territory safe. You know, it's got its own boundaries. So it has to say no to everything that is outside, you know, to keep the boundary going. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking that's, but, you know, I mean, of course, in that unconditional love, we certainly can say no to people.
Oh, yeah.
And have that, whatever springs up and say no.
Yes. Oh, yes.
To that kind of thing.
Yes. Within the story.
But I understand within the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything,
Thank you. Thank you. That's very important.
What's
Yes.
helping me in that context, Alice, is it would be a yes to no. You can say yes to no.
Oh, yeah, good.
Good for you, yes to know.
Yeah, good. But there's no one doing that. You know, there's recognizing that, yeah, the story has a certain flow to it, and certain things that just naturally, you know, you don't want to say yes to oncoming traffic, you know, if you're walking across the street, right? You don't want to say yes to the truck that's coming, you know, 60 miles an hour. Yeah, and you don't want to say yes to people who are trying to hurt you and you know, yeah. So, but that happens. There's no one in there who's deciding to do this or that. That's the point.
Right. Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Good, thank you. This is really important.
Yeah, I'm currently involved in trying to support my daughter who is suicidal at the moment. So that's a bit scary. It's a bit scary for Faith. That's probably even more scary for her. When I speak with her, when I listen to her, and when I speak back to her, the only thing that I want to say to her is something of the non-dual message. I sort of think once upon a time I would have approached it from a psychology sort of point of view, but that never worked properly for me anyway, and that's why I've sort of ended up with the non-dual. And so I sort of want to talk to her from a non-dual point of view. And that's pretty shocking, because that's like you, Nkosi, talking to your family and they think that you know, they don't know what you're talking about. And so she doesn't know, she doesn't know what to do with me when I come. Has anybody got any suggestions about what I don't know. I suppose I just don't do anything. I don't know. Anybody got any ideas about what you would do when somebody comes to you in deep distress, and really only your only answers really are non-dual stuff, like you are nobody, and it's your thoughts are not the thoughts don't belong to you, and rah rah rah. You know.
Faith, what comes up for me is the first thing would be to just totally allow her to be. And
Yeah.
words are probably not going to be that helpful, but to just totally let her be.
Yeah, true. Yeah, thanks, Peter. I was even thinking that as the meeting was being in progress, I thought it just sort of be in total acceptance of, yeah, and maybe the words. I get the feeling that I'm doing too much of the words, too much talking, trying to fix.
Which I have empathy. I feel empathy with that,
Mm.
considering the situation.
Mm. Mm.
You know.
Mm. Yeah, it's pretty serious, because yesterday she took herself to a place that you might jump off the cliff. So, you know, but Nkosi, you'd probably say to me, that's all is this, and life is still beautiful, and like, you know, just all part of the thing.
He wouldn't do that.